Hello and welcome to today's show. My name is Bemi and we're here with Me and Foods, the maker of the Nuden Poundo. Today we're celebrating all things International Women's Day, and this year's theme is actually all about investing in women. Talking about investing in women, we cannot talk about investment without talking about our health. Me and Foods is all about helping you live healthier, happier lives. And in that regard, today with me I have here the esteemed Aproko Doctor.
Esteemed.
Esteemed. I'm
That's
sure.
a big word.
I mean, of course, you must have seen him grace your screens before. He is an award-winning creator, as you know. He's also a board-certified medical doctor and the executive director of the 100K Club. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, baby.
Welcome. So, we're talking about all things health, and the first thing I'm actually going to talk about is how blood sugar affects our health. Diabetes is something that has increasingly become something that we're having to think about. So I really want to talk about how our diet and food can actually affect our blood sugar and what all of that is about.
So basically, when we talk about diabetes, it seems it's something that's a little bit more rampant right now, right? You must have noticed quite a number of people coming in with, blood sugar problems, and most of it can be traced back to our lifestyle. The habits that we're picking up. Most importantly, our food. Because if we're to explain it in a very simple term, your body basically needs sugar to survive. So when we say sugar is not bad, we're correct. But at the same time, when we say too much sugar is bad, we're also correct. So, because whatever you take, whatever you eat, whatever you ingest, your body has to convert it to glucose in order to survive. Now, when you eat something that has sugar, for instance, your body secretes insulin. The job of the insulin is to basically say, there's too much sugar in this blood, and it's going to really affect a lot of stuff. So what do? Push the insulin into the cells. So you eat, it digests it, breaks it down to glucose, it gets into your bloodstream, it's a lot. Your body releases insulin to take those to take that glucose into the blood cells. However, when a person is low on sugar, the body now secretes glucagon to do what? Go into those cells and stimulate them to release the glucose back so that your brain can use it, your tissue can use it, your muscles can use it. Now, when a person continues taking more sugar than they need, it happens that the insulin spikes happen too often. So you take food, it has a lot of sugar, your body releases a lot of insulin to get that blood into because your sugar levels have to be controlled. Okay? They have to stay within a particular range. So when you take a lot, your body releases too much insulin so that it pushes those glucose into the blood cells. However, when that is repeated over and over and over and over again, something happens. Those cells no longer respond to insulin. So a person takes glucose like they should. Normally, the insulin is secreted, but because there's too much insulin in the blood now, it's almost like audition. So
no grief for anybody.
Exactly.
Again.
The cells just say, you know what, I know they grieve for you again. Every time you're pushing glucose into me. And they just become resistant to insulin. That is now insulin resistant diabetes. Right? And that's usually one of the commoner forms of diabetes. And that's type 2. There's type 1 where a person doesn't really have insulin at all. But you would notice that one because it's usually a childhood disease.
So
Genetics. But in type 2 diabetes, where insulin was fine, but then lifestyle changes and everything is pushing you into this. And now, the thing about diabetes is that diabetes would affect almost every organ in your body. From your brain, to your nerve cells, to your fatigue, to even your hormones, even the rate at which your wound heals, because it's glucose, it's too much of it, and so it's posing the problems. It's posing problems for that person. It even gets to a point that a person who has diabetes, especially if the blood sugar has been controlled for a while, hits their toe. You're always walking by your bed and then you hit your toe. Some people hit their toes and then it gets injuries that never heal.
Wow.
Simply because there's too much glucose in the blood, those particular wounds usually get infected Sometimes when they get infected, there's glucose there. It's feeding the bacteria. The bacteria is
Like thriving.
thriving.
Sugar.
Sometimes some people don't even know they have an injury because the nerve cells that are supposed to let you know that you have an injury is no longer working.
Wow.
So it just affects everything. Sometimes even your kidneys. So some people have diabetes and go on to develop kidney failure.
Wow. That's really interesting. So when we really talk about this high blood sugar, a lot of people say, okay, but I don't drink Coke. I don't take sugar. Can you talk a bit more about like the sugar, the types of sugar, what type of sugar is okay to have, what is not okay to have? Like,
so there are different kinds of sugars, complex sugars and simple sugars, right? When we say complex sugars, we're talking about things like starch. Those ones that contain in flour, and all that. And then we have simple sugars. Simple sugars are usually fructose, they are present in your jam. You're present in your sugar because sugar, the natural sugar that is in natural sugar, granulated sugar that we know is sucrose, right? It's fructose and glucose together. But your body ultimately breaks down all this. Even milk contains sugar. So at the end of the day, like I said, almost everything you eat is converted to sugar. However, when you take, let me use two instances. You could take a fruit, for instance. A fruit contains sugar. And take soda. in the same hand. They both contain sugar. However, one is going to affect your body, in the wrong way. How? When you take soda, for instance, there are usually no vitamins and minerals to it. Number one. Number two, you're drinking the sugar. Because when you eat food, your body starts the digestive process even from your mouth. So it takes a while, even before it gets to your belly. Your stomach is already primed, your small intestines are primed, everything is ready to take care of what's coming. And it's coming in small bits. And also, some fruits contain fiber. So as you're eating the fiber is helping to slow down the digestive process. So the sugar doesn't really rise in your bloodstream that much. Unlike when you drink it. So when you drink it, what happens? Before your body is even prepared, it has gone into your bloodstream. That's why people take soda and all of a sudden they feel so energetic. And then immediately after then, it feels like, oh, I'm tired. It crashed, right? So, and then it now becomes a negative feedback cycle because, oh, I feel tired now. I need to take another bottle of soda. And so it spikes the insulin again. They get some energy. The insulin pushes into the cells. They tend to feel tired again and over again. However, those are not the only places where you can find sugar.
Okay.
When we talk about starch, for instance, especially Nigerians, we love our swallow.
Our starch.
We love our starch a little bit too much. And I have said this over and over again. Actually, the size of your muscle should not be bigger than your fist, rather. But we'll find Nigerians with a small plate of soup. And then you have like about this size.
Massive.
Hips. And then all that is sugar. Because your body will break it down to sugar. All that's sugar. And they take it, spikes your blood sugar.
Wow.
Because sometimes some of even what we eat don't have a lot of fiber. And let's even go to how we even eat it. Yes, eat it slowly. But then again, some people are wrapping big mounds and they're just dumping it in.
Just dumping it in.
I know I've said it before, but they're probably going to drag me for it again. But food is meant to be chewed. You get. If you're not going to chew it, cut it in really small muscles so that your body can actually take care of it. So in starch, for instance, and then you talk about junk. If junk is and then you talk about junk. If junk is a part of a person's lifestyle, it's definitely going to affect their blood sugar because the flour used to make it is basically just refined flour. And refined flour usually has 0 to no fiber.
You are right. You give me like 2 points I even want us to go deeper in. The first one, of course, this show is sponsored by Million Foods. And we have our lovely Nuden Poundo. And a lot of the reason why Nuden Poundo was created was to actually address this problem of people one, lacking nutrients in their food when it comes to like the actual amount of fiber in their swallows.
Yeah.
So this Poundo has been formulated to help you actually have your blood sugar be reduced, controlled, and in a slow manner.
Yeah.
And it also has a lot of whole grains. So I would say like better for you sugars, Abby.
Better, yeah.
Exactly.
Better.
So that's actually just a side way. I wanted to just plug that in there. But also another thing that you mentioned when it comes to hormones, I wanted you to talk about how our hormones are actually affected by the foods that we eat and how these play a factor in terms of, I guess, fertility and lifestyle, and what kind of diseases can be manifested when our hormones aren't in check, both in men and women.
So I think I'll start from men.
Men, okay.
Right? And the reason I like to start from men is because we like intercourse a little bit too much. And it's almost looking like everything we do, our lifestyle is not helping that. Let's talk about sugar and libido, for instance. It's been shown that when you have increased blood sugar spikes, it reduces your testosterone. And testosterone in men is the major hormone for libido or sex drive.
Wow.
And so people who take a lot of sugar tend to find out that they have low sex drives. Right?
Have you people heard?
Also, sometimes that crave for sugar might be a response to something else, which is stress. So when a person is stressed, for instance, your body releases cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone. One of the things that it helps you do is to go for cheaper sources of sugar, because it feels like you're in a fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
And so it needs you to get sugar that will immediately get you running, rather than having to go through that digestive
releasing,
process.
yes.
So it wants you to just get the sugar now, right? So most people reach for sodas, some people reach for junk. You hardly find most times watch a person's behavior when they're stressed. They're reaching for lower quality foods.
Yeah.
Nobody's reaching for a tuber of yam or salad. I just want to have some grains. Please.
The stress.
Please, you're looking for lower quality foods. Sometimes it's cake. Sometimes it's puff, small chops. Fried and calorie heavy.
Yes.
And they reach for those things, and then it starts to affect their libido, right? And that's in men. In women, however, it's an interplay of factors, right? It can also reduce libido because testosterone is also in women, just that it's not the major hormone. For women, however, we don't have a lot of... Did I say we?
It's okay. Inclusivity.
For women, however, they don't have a lot of testosterone to begin with. And then those sugar spikes reduce and, libido is reduced. There is another factor, however, which is known as polycystic ovarian syndrome, that is affected to a large extent by lifestyle and food. Right? Because when we talk about polycystic ovarian syndrome, it's actually a condition that a lot of women, especially in our part of the world, deal with. I know I had a video about it on my page one time, and we're actually producing a second one.
Wow.
So it's a common...
Yes. I have to say, like, even recently, I found like a few of my friends have been diagnosed with PCOS, and it's not something that maybe like 10 years ago we're very aware of. But now that like in our late 20s, 30s, we're like thinking about like giving birth, we're now like understanding our bodies more. We're realizing that a lot of our hormones are just not doing what they're supposed to do, and it's like weight loss, acne, hair all over your face.
It's crazy.
There's so many things.
So
we'd love to hear more.
So polycystic ovarian syndrome. So it's a syndrome, right? And a syndrome means it's a continuum. Some people may have some symptoms, some people may have other symptoms. But majorly it's an hormonal imbalance. Right? I will try my best to make it as simple as possible. Because it's an hormonal imbalance, let's start from the polycystic syndrome. Okay. Their body releases a lot of the hormone in somewhere in the brain, right? That causes a lot of ovaries, the eggs, to try to get ovulated. But they don't get ovulated. So basically, the body, the hormone in the brain tells the body, okay, it's time to ovulate. And mobilizes a lot of eggs. However, the problem is that many of those eggs don't get to full maturity, and then they don't get absorbed.
Wow.
So you now find a lot of cysts in the ovaries, but you can only find that when you do an ultrasound scan. Most times you won't know you have cysts, right? But there are certain other signs, or certain other symptoms rather, that a person can know. But one is acne. So you find the acne, usually, cystic acne. It's, it's not the occasional acne here and there. It's enough to catch your attention, inflamed. And for a lot of women, it happens around the jawline. For other women, you find hirsutism, right? Hirsutism is basically having hair, or male pattern hair. So some you may find chest hair, you may find, hair on the face. I know we used to grow up then and we saw women who were bearded. And some of us referred to them, we're young then and didn't know any better. This man is wicked. This woman is this woman is that. Yes. I'm sure even people watching it can relate if they're within that age range. However, we did not know that was some PCOS. Why you find these male and then even male pattern baldness, baldness, right? They start to lose hair around the edge like men do. So it's like you have hair where you don't want it, and then you're losing hair where you want it, right? And there is also menstrual irregularities. So you find that it's either they have less periods, for example, less than 9 in a year. So 2 months can pass and the person will not see their period. In some extreme cases, they get complete amenorrhea.
Wow.
So they don't have periods at all, sometimes for a whole year.
Wow.
And it's happened. One important part is the fact that some people are obese or overweight, right? And when you look closely, there's a very close link between PCOS and insulin resistance. So if you noticed in the beginning, we're talking about how after a while your body gets used to insulin, and you find that also in PCOS. Is usually insulin resistance that if it's not taken care of, it could either lead to type 2 diabetes or even metabolic syndrome, right? Because we don't talk about the impact of sugar. Now, there are other ways it can be treated, right? Of course, there are some drugs that can be given and all that, but I'm not going to go into all that.
Yeah.
We'll keep this energy around the lifestyle changes because it's been shown that when a person reduces, first of all, changes their diet, especially a woman with PCOS, it can greatly improve the incomes. Now, PCOS is also genetic in some way because some people say life is not fair. This person doesn't really have to watch what they eat and their menstrual cycle is fine and everything is okay. I just have to pass where there's bugger.
Smell it
in the air and bam, I'm adding weight, 5 kg. So, and you you also need to realize that we have different genetic. Some people are, more genetically inclined to some things than others. It's just the way life is, right? Now, for a woman with PCOS, there are studies that have shown that if she loses about 5 to 10% of her weight, symptoms improve.
Wow. Just by, weight loss.
Just by weight loss alone. And some of this weight loss, some of the things that would even get you to that kind of weight loss will probably be exercise. We'll be on a calorie deficit. We'll be choosing more nutrient-dense meals, right? Rather than empty calories. Because there's something I call empty calories.
Yeah.
For example, I get a burger, right? Have I taken calories in? Yes, of course, I have. But were they empty? Yes. So I've taken a lot of calories, but there are no nutrients, there are no vitamins or minerals to help my body really use what it needs to do. Because yes, we say that glucose is the main source of energy that the body uses. But then there are small vitamins and minerals that the body needs in really small quantities when you think about it to be able to carry out its functions better. For example, vitamin D, for instance, can actually help your immunity. Vitamin C, for instance, can help your body heal better. Can also help your immunity. Vitamin A can help your skin.
Eyesight.
Eyesight. I some people would argue it's vitamin E rather than A, but Argue.
Everybody does his own share.
Argue. So, vitamin E, vitamin A, vitamin B1 can help your, so it's those small things that you're missing out in these other foods. So a person could be overweight on the B's, but then they don't have those micronutrients that the body needs for some efficient processes. So you can find out that, oh, this person is big, but they're usually anemic.
Yeah.
They don't have enough blood because they're lacking in one nutrient
Yeah.
So changing that person's diet to something that is more nutrient dense can actually help. Another thing that's very important and is also choosing fiber-rich diets. And when I say fiber-rich diets, remember we talked about insulin resistance being a factor. Insulin resistance being a factor, fiber slows down the digestive process so that food can completely go through and be digested properly. When it does that, the insulin does not peak as much. So it now starts to peak very slowly. And over time, even those cells, especially when that person now adds exercise to it, it can even now stimulate the muscles to demand for glucose.
Interesting.
So the excess glucose, that in the bloodstream and all that can now be mopped up by those, muscle cells that now need energy to work. So, of course, one of the commonest complaints in polycystic ovarian syndrome is subfertility. Usually and then once those lifestyle changes are effected, those women tend to give birth.
Wow.
So at the end of the day, what we eat affects our hormones.
So you're saying that if we focus on eating more nutrient-dense foods higher in fiber, whole grains and all of that, we can actually improve our health.
I agree.
Okay,
I agree. Also protein-rich foods. We sometimes people eat like bricklayers. And that's understandable. Because growing up, I used to sell pure water to, bricklayers, manual workers, and I noticed how they eat. Someone has on one plate rice, spag, yam.
Carb.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. 2 pieces of meat, just very tiny. And then, what else? Bread together. Which is understandable if that person is a menial worker, right? That's because they need carb-dense food in order to carry those blocks. But if you're not a bricklayer, or you're not involved in, lifting things from one place to the other, you probably don't need that amount of carbohydrates. Because remember, I said almost everything else you eat gets converted to glucose in one way or the other. And it's also very important for people to know that by the time they clock 30, their body starts to lose 5% of their body's muscle every 10 years. That's why it's usually difficult for people who are older to build muscle than when they're younger. And that's why you notice that some people, when they start to get older, they start to gain weight. You're wondering how this happened. I used to finish one loaf of bread.
Yeah, I'm still eating the same way.
But I'm still eating the same way I eat, but while all of a sudden I'm gaining weight. No, you're losing muscle mass. Because you're losing muscle mass, your body's going to gain weight, right? Because you don't have enough muscle to now mop up the extra calories and the extra glycogen and the extra, in the bloodstream. So aside from just having nutrient dense, what's called nutrient dense is important, especially in the kind of world that we live in now where food is fast. Food is quick, right? That quickness, we're sacrificing nutrients. But there has to be some balance to be able to get quick food and nutrient dense food at the same time. But that. And then when a person is exercising, you also need proteins. Proteins is important because proteins are like the building block of your body. And also another hack for eating proteins is proteins make you feel fuller.
This is true.
So because carbohydrates are digested faster. Proteins, once you take a protein like this, it's like you've almost eaten the whole world. And you're just full and you feel slow. It's just the way proteins work because your body burns more energy trying to digest proteins.
Wow, thank you so much. You provided so much insight into how we can actually manage our health when it comes to like diseases. Can you talk about if I don't have any disease, I don't have any problem. How important is it for me to actually eat healthy, eat a diet rich in fiber, and eat nutrient-dense foods?
That's because when you do that, you're preventing these things that we talked about. So healthy people might be watching this and they're, oh, this one never concerned me yet. See, it concerns you, everybody, because it's better to prevent these things than actually have them and then treat, right? It's even cheaper because, so I had a conversation with someone that, got me thinking. He said, you're going to spend that money. The problem is where? Are you spending it getting the right meals? Are you spending it building a healthy lifestyle? Are you spending it in gym fees? Or are you spending it in the hospital? You're going to have to choose to spend it one way or the other.
Yeah.
So make your choice.
Yeah. And at least spending it outside of the hospital means no pain, Abby.
No pain.
Exactly.
And, I get to enjoy quality life, actually.
Life. Wow, thank you so much. That actually brings me kind of like concluding this conversation.
Oh, we're done.
Almost done, no, remaining small. So obviously this show is sponsored by Me and Foods. Okay, this Poundo is actually a groundbreaking product that's hitting the shelves. Now, it is made with all organic, ancient grains, high in fiber, all of the good things that you talked about.
Yeah.
Some of the ingredients here are khorasan, buckwheat, potato flour, spelt, manganese. Can you actually talk about these ingredients and why it's important that we're including them in our diet?
Really?
Please, Rido.
So, I like that you mentioned some of this buckwheat, khorasan, potato flour. And it's a new, not new, but they've been there. You see, these particular grains have been there for a while. But then there were some particular grains that were chosen by human beings to breed more. And those are like we call them the modern grains. So those are the ones that, have been modified. They've been passed through over and over again. And then these ones that you mentioned are what is referred to as ancient grains. So they still have the properties and they've not been altered. So they still have those properties that they initially had. Unlike, some of the new ones that probably because they want more profits, they've altered one way or the other. And there's even one people that I came across that say that people are even trying to shift to ancient grains to see how they can end world hunger. And that's because they've noticed that ancient grains tend to be high in nutrients. Unlike the new ones.
Yes, and this comes back to what you said about the quality of our food versus the quantity. So you can even be obese but find out that you're nutrient deficient. So we should think about how
the quality of the food.
Quality of food.
So ancient grains.
Okay. Have you people heard? Choose Nuden Poundo if you want to make your swallow. Its filling is absolutely delicious and one of my favorite products ever.
Oh, and then I'm even saying manganese.
Manganese.
Yes.
Can you tell me about manganese? I've been hearing about this.
So it's a micronutrient.
Okay.
Which is also very important because, like I said, you can have a lot of calories but very little nutrients, and then these nutrients are what your body needs for small things. Now, manganese is very important in the working of your nervous system, so your brain and sometimes even your bone, your connective tissue. So. But when a person is manganese deficient, you can easily tell, right? But the fact that it's there and it's actually one of the highest, right? Wow. So I'm looking at it being 32%, which is actually very high, which is substantial rather, to actually supply a person's manganese, because there are some of those nutrients that we don't actually think about. We don't go about thinking, oh, I must have some manganese today.
Yes.
but when you don't get it, your body, it will show.
Body feels the effect.
Yeah.
That's so true. And I think it's important just for everyone, whether you're living with a disease or you're just a healthy person, to actually just pay attention to what it is that you're eating. And we can't actually talk about women's health without talking about, women's health, without talking about the food that we put in our body, because definitely lifestyle factors play a huge factor.
And also because the way to a woman's heart is through her belly.
The way to a woman's heart is through her belly. Said that one.
It's you people that said it.
The way to a woman's heart is through her belly.
Yes. I know you people.
Are you sure it's not through her pocket?
It's through her belly.
Her belly.
Yes.
You know what is true? Food is my weakness.
Don't give her food.
Okay. Okay, so wow, such an insightful conversation.
It's been an enjoyable one.
Thank you so much. We are so grateful for you taking the time to be here with us. Now is the best part. We're about to eat this Nuden Poundo that we've been talking about. Yes, with some seafood okra.
We're talking and showing at the same time.
Exactly.
How do you know to bring seafood okra?
Is that your favorite? A little bird told us.
It's
up there.
It's high up there.
What's your favorite?
I don't have favorites.
Okay, fair enough.
So I think I'm at that stage where I don't have favorites.
Anything kind of goes.
Not anything. There are some disfavorites.
There's some disfavorites.
or unfavorites.
Favorites, but no favorites.
But no favorites.
Okay, now let's.
But this is.